manufacturer. It was a near-miss Monday for former President Reagan.
Strengthening.
Excuse me, President Reagan. President Reagan!
An anti-nuclear activist smashed a Crystal Distinguished Service trophy. Mr. Reagan had been awarded moments before by the National Association of Broadcasters. Las Vegas police say Richard Springer will be charged with assaulting a former president. He's a founder of an anti-nuclear group. The Secret Service said Springer had the proper badge to attend the convention. It's trying to determine if the credentials were acquired legitimately. Reagan resumed his speech a few minutes after being hustled off stage. Downtown Chicago is expected to remain without power for at least one more day. Monday, a wall retaining the Chicago River ruptured, sending water rushing into basements of buildings in the Chicago City Business District. Power was shut off as a safety precaution. Crews think they have stopped the leak, but it will take time to drain the standing water and restore electrical power. Officials have not determined the cause of the rupture. The business day was a virtual washout because of the flood. We'll explain why a little later on in our Dollars and Cents report. The most important building at a key Iraqi nuclear facility is now destroyed. UN inspectors say the building at the Al Atir complex was virtually flattened by 3 explosions. Other buildings will be demolished later on. The demolition was part of the Persian Gulf War ceasefire agreement. Till recently, Iraq had refused to cooperate. Libya's latest proposal to avoid UN sanctions will probably be rejected. On Monday, Libya offered to turn 2 suspects in the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over to Malta. Western diplomats say that's not good enough because Malta is not considered a neutral country. Embargoes of air traffic and arms sales to Libya are scheduled to go into effect on Wednesday. The Organization of American States is condemning the actions of Peruvian President Alberto Fujimori. The OAS stopped short of imposing sanctions in a resolution approved on Monday evening. Fujimori suspended Peru's constitution and dissolved its Congress last week. Peru's foreign minister, a supporter of Fujimori, told the organization that Congress had systematically blocked Fujimori's moves against drug traffickers and leftist terrorists. Shining Path terrorist guerrillas are believed responsible for a bombing in Lima's port Monday that killed 4 people. In London on Monday, Labour Party leader Neil Kinnock announced his resignation. The decision comes after leading the party to its 4th straight defeat in last week's general election. Under Kinnock's leadership, the Labour Party shed its extreme left-wing policies and re-entered mainstream politics. But the Welsh miner's son never reached the popularity with the voters that other party leaders achieved. Ukraine's defense minister said his country will be responsible with its nuclear weapons. He told U.S. Defense Secretary Dick Cheney Monday Ukraine will resume shipping weapons to Russia once a system's in place to have them dismantled and destroyed. Ukraine stopped sending nuclear weapons to Russia last month. It said Russia could not monitor their destruction. Boris Yeltsin's cabinet has submitted his resignation en masse. They're protesting efforts by Russia's Congress of People's Deputies to block radical economic reforms. Yeltsin asked the ministers to stay on for a few more days while the Congress finishes its current session. Eileen O'Connor reports.
Boris Yeltsin's government threw down the gauntlet backstage at the Congress of People's Deputies.
Realizing the impossibility of implementing the Congress's decisions and speaking out against the abandonment of radical reforms, we are forced to ask the President to accept the government's resignation.
Conservatives on Saturday passed amendments to a resolution on economic reforms, calling on the government to increase government spending, forcing Boris Yeltsin to give up the Prime Minister's post in 3 months, and demanding that their stamp of approval be given to any future cabinet appointments. That, says the government, spells death to the economic reform program, and ministers now hope for some compromise.
We hope that the Congress will be wise enough to understand this and to correct the decision taken on Saturday.
Others say this is all Russian drama.
I think this resolution will stay for some time, but real life will be continued. The presidential powers do exist, and I think that government will be wise enough not to make some dramatic actions.
Gennady Kirishin feels no one needs the theatrics, just help. He finds it hard to make ends meet. If people see that reforms do something, only then will they support them, Gennady says. Now more and more people don't believe in them. Elizabeth Andrachova does. She's 86 and has had a hard life. She says their only hope is through Yeltsin's reforms. He'll bring us a better life, says Elizabeth. All my hopes are on Yeltsin. But more and more people are losing hope and looking for someone to blame.
A likely compromise will be that this resolution on economic reform becomes a recommendation, non-binding. For even Yeltsin's opponents think the resignation of the government will lead to chaos. And there's enough of that already. Eileen O'Connor, CNN, Moscow.